Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining me on the Political Deep Dive. I'm David Valente. You can check out my socials right there. Again, we have to give a hearty thank you to the People for Liberty folks on Facebook for giving us the access of their Facebook page to show the show while I'm sitting in my Facebook ban for my Dahmer tweets or Dahmer Facebook posts. But thank you so much. The People for Liberty, join them. People for, number four liberty.com or .org. I'm sorry. And in fact, I've got banners that I can share for this. There we go. Peopleforliberty.org. There we go. And their Facebook page, which is People for the number four Liberty Inc. Again, they talk about education, advocacy, and action. It's a fantastic organization. Thank them so much for I call it a sponsorship of our show for the next month while I'm facing my little ban here. But again, thank you so much to Dan and all the people there at People for Liberty for setting us up with their Facebook feed. So tonight I am talking about the Second Amendment, and my guest is Will Hyman. He is a member of the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. How you doing, Will?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Let me get everything set up here. There we go. Now we look professional. All right, Will. So, Will, you're big on the Second Amendment, and you're also involved with me on the Libertarian Party of West Virginia. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I just turned 40 years old. I live here in Harrison County, Clarksburg, the city of Clarksburg in Harrison County, West Virginia, with my lovely wife, Rosie, and my 5-year-old daughter, Audra. So, we've lived here for about 15 years now, here in Clarksburg. And I graduated from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh in 2003 and Jefferson High School, which is in Jefferson County, West Virginia, in 1999. Yeah. I lived there for 8 or 9 years before I graduated from high school and went off to college in Pittsburgh. So not from West Virginia, but I got here as fast as I could. And, I love living here, and I love that the state of West Virginia is so strong towards the Second Amendment. That's always a great thing.
Absolutely. One of the strongest states in the union when it comes to
Absolutely
the Second Amendment and its protections. Really, the only place you can't bring a gun is the state capitol grounds.
Pretty much.
We found that out before. A few people have tried to do that before, and that's not worked out well. Is that why you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan?
Yes, and a Pirates and Steelers fan too. So
all right, yeah. I feel bad for the Pirates, but
yeah,
had enough success with the Steelers and the Penguins. So
yeah. I've been known to root for the Washington Redskins as well. Growing up in the Jefferson County area, had all my friends were Redskins fans, so kind of had to do that for a while, and then
it's the football.
Thankfully, I got rid of that and moved to a better team.
There you go.
And, but yeah, I still like the football team, I should say.
Yeah, much better owner though. I mean, the Steelers definitely have much better owner.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no competition there. No competition there.
Awesome. So, well, then tell me, how did you get into guns and gun culture?
Well, my dad, he had the standard West Virginia armament. He had the 22 caliber rifle, the 12 gauge shotgun, and the 30-06 hunting rifle. And he was never big into guns as far as the AR or any type of battle rifle type thing. But when I was in high school, we had and younger, we had friends who had cheap import SKS rifles and other things, and we would shoot them in the woods and having a good time as boys do. And I never owned a gun until about 2007, actually.
Wow.
Of course, I was in high school and then college, and I didn't own a home until about 2006. So I didn't really have much money to buy guns. Although I didn't miss them while I didn't have any. But the first gun I went to go buy an SKS because I grew up shooting them, and they were fun to shoot. And I had no more knowledge than I did back then of the rifle. So I went to a gun store, and I there was some other rifles on the shelf, and I told him I wanted to order an SKS rifle. So we looked through a catalog, and he said, "Well, I'll order this one," and it never came. So I'd already put half the money down, and a week went by, and I went back, and it wasn't there, and then another week. So finally, uh, I went back there, and I was like, "Well, what can we do?" And there was a Romanian AK-47 known as a Wasser 10 on the shelf, and he's like, "Well, how about this right here?" I'm sold. I'm going to buy an AK-47. So the first gun, that was the first gun I ever bought, and it kind of was a water, cascading waterfall effect. After that, it just led into collecting all sorts of different type of military surplus firearms, mostly anywhere from Mosin Nagant rifles, SKS rifles, AK rifles, and military surplus pistols as well. I got some World War II Japanese and American rifles as well. So it kind of spurred off in all these different directions of military, mostly military surplus, mostly communist military surplus. That's kind of my bread and butter in the collecting part of it.
It's the irony that all the communist weapons became surplus and they made money off of selling them.
Absolutely, and that is a great. There's a great story behind. Obviously, all those, and then bans. They started banning the importation of them, and they tried to to get them into the States. They had to follow these restrictions by putting special stocks on them, removing the bayonets, and removing different parts of the gun to make it less menacing. This was during the 90s the gun ban. This is actually when I was shooting them in the woods. We had no idea what was going on the national level. We were just kids. But that's basically where it started for me. And then, like you said, the fact that China and all these Eastern Bloc countries ship them back into the States for profit is amazing. But the story for me is behind all these rifles and pistols and military curio and relics is that these weapons terrorized the countries that the people lived in. These rifles were terrorizing the civilian population of these countries through socialism and communism, and the fact that they're now here in the States preserving the Second Amendment and preserving freedom and liberty it's just an amazing turn of events when you think about it. It's just more proof that socialism, communism always fails, and it's just a bad idea. We shouldn't do it.
Absolutely. For me, it's so. Well, tell me what does the Second Amendment mean to you?
I think it's about the ability to use it when it's needed against tyranny and other aspects of overreach of government and other things. I mean, that's exactly what it's for. I think there is some aspect of the militia to it, but I think we are the militia. That's the aspect of it. The people are the militia.
Sure.
And that's the Second Amendment to me. That's what it's for, is to protect us from those issues, or the idea of tyranny. It gets a lot of mixed emotions, I think, from people. Well, you'll never be able to do that. Even with your semi-automatic, your rifle's 50 years old, and what are you going to do with that? They have tanks and aircraft carriers and drones. It always comes back to that. And you just got to remind them.
Taliban.
yeah, absolutely. From the Viet Cong to even dating back to the early 1900s, after World War One, the Spanish Civil War, and others, where they had bolt action rifles against machine guns and the earliest tanks and other things. I mean, it's nothing new.
Yeah.
The partisan movement, or your guerrilla movements, or whatever you want to call them, they always, usually, from what we've seen in history, win. Regardless of the weapons of their opponent. I mean, whether they're jet fighters, that can fly Mach 2, or drones or anything else, they can be beat, or at least turned away. And
you can wear them down. You can wear them down and remove their will to fight. I mean, you always give the advantage to the home team when it comes to a war like that, especially if they've gone guerrilla. like that.
Absolutely. I mean, and a lot of these, even in the more modern era of Vietnam, post Vietnam, and into the Iraq War, Iraq invasion, I should say, and the war in Afghanistan. You know, these you know these rifles aren't much different than the ones in my closet. Obviously, the AK platform is very strong over there, and they're fully automatic. But they're still Taliban fighters with bolt action Enfield rifles, Mosin Nagants. I mean, these rifles are 70, 80 years old.
Sure.
And yeah, they're not going to stand much a chance against a modern American, might, but that it's still doing something. It's still preserving their freedom.
Yeah, exactly. For me, the Second Amendment is the enforcement clause of the Bill of Rights. It is
Good way to look at it.
it's the muscle behind it, because a law without an enforcement clause to it is basically just worthless. So they put that in there so that we have yes, you have freedom of speech, but they can whittle that away if we're not allowed to defend ourselves, not allowed
Absolutely.
to take action when tyranny happens. So yeah, to me, the Second Amendment really is what happens when all the other, well, the Bill of Rights to me is, look at what happened with the colonists. All these things were the things that the British had done that made it untenable to live under the British rule.
Mhm.
They took away their ability to speak, the freedom of religion, took away their ability to defend themselves, forced them to quarter troops in their homes, um, due process, all that stuff. And the Bill of Rights is just, these are the things that the touch points that if these start getting abrogated, now you need to, that Second Amendment is what you're going to need to use to turn that back.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so, but anyway, so you belong to a group called the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. Tell me a little bit about that. Actually, I
Well,
belong to them too.
the West Virginia Citizens Defense League is a grassroots organization that's statewide here in West Virginia, and I've been a member personally since 2013. I got into it, by some gentleman named Sean Dill, and he invited me to an event one time, and we started driving to other events. Went to the Panhandle a couple times. Did a big rally there against, or I'm sorry, for the preemption bill that got passed in, I believe, 2014, which basically made it, brought all West Virginia uh, uh, municipalities in West Virginia at that time, but before that time, could impose weight limits, or for purchasing pistols. Allowed you only to buy one a day, or
Yeah.
they could do anything they really wanted to. Uh, Extended background checks and other things. Or another one was the ability to get a concealed weapons permit, where the sheriff would have the ultimate say in saying, yeah, you can't have one just because I said so.
Yeah.
So that bill that I believe was 2014, the preemption bill, got rid of all those laws and made it so municipalities couldn't ban guns in certain locations, and other things like that. So that was the start of their real movement. That got a lot of notoriety, especially against Danny Jones, I believe his name is, the former governor of Charleston. He was upset that kids were going to bring guns into the youth activities and stuff like that. And of course, after that, they started going further against it. And they got constitutional carry passed, and that basically made it so you don't have to have a permit to carry a pistol at all.
Yeah.
So they've been really successful. I mean, and they're laser focused on the Second Amendment here in West Virginia, and they're it's one victory after another. I wish every grassroots organization was as effective as they were in
Yeah.
West Virginia. Whether it's our party itself, or the cannabis movement, or anything. I
Yeah.
wish they were that good, because they would be getting stuff done.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've been a member since 2013. It's a great organization. Right now, they're working on House Bill 2694, which is, I guess, is Senate Bill 353 as well. But they finally got House Bill 2694 out of the Judiciary Committee, and yep, there you go. And it is, I guess, going to be moved to the floor here soon. it looks like I guess they had some opposition from Fraternal Order of Police and other state police organizations and stuff like that. So basically what that bill does is makes it so any type of new federal laws that may be passed by the Biden administration or the ATF would be kind of unenforceable here by local law enforcement or local authorities or any type of local, state organizations. So, if I'm guessing in some cases that, if they should pass a ban on maybe high capacity magazines or other devices for your firearm or rifle, they would not give any assets. They would not send their police or any type of help or support to enforce these laws, and they're basing it on this I guess with the Prince legal fight, I guess, where it allowed California to not enforce I guess marijuana law and what's the other one? Oh, immigration from ICE and other things. So and they won that case. California won that case, and they're using the same logic here for the Second Amendment here in West Virginia. So hopefully it can get to the floor, and I'm sure with the Republican supermajority that we have, we can make that pass, and it'll be a good legislation win again for the WVCDL, who just, like I said, keeps turning up W's. I mean, they're on fire. They had a setback, with campus carry, but maybe they'll have time this session to make it happen, or next session. So
yeah, I mean, do you think that's going to happen? Campus carry. I mean, I think it's going to eventually happen.
I think so too.
Even a lot of the Democrats in the legislature are, one of the big ones actually switched to the Republicans this year. Jason Barrett was one of the bigger, gun advocates within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But
I think the issue there is Gordon Gee and WVU and all the money that's involved there, and the guy literally hops on a private jet to lobby against our rights in Charleston, using our money. I mean, that's our money that his private jet is operated by. It's the same with Jim Justice's aircraft and others. But I mean, that's that's just something that we've had to deal with. And I think it'll happen. It maybe not this session, but maybe next session after. I think right now, focusing on this and considering all the national legislation or the federal legislation that's poised to strike here in a little while. I mean, it's what we need right now.
So speaking of national legislation, what are you tracking there?
I think we've got some expanded background checks stuff similar to the Manchin-Toomey bill, and others have said I'm hearing a lot of chatter on Facebook saying, well, Governor Manchin's Senator Manchin, has to, he has to step in and prevent this from happening. And I'm thinking about, that's not going to happen. He literally authored the Manchin-Toomey. I mean, his name is on it. The Manchin-Toomey extended background checks, to avoid the nix the gun show loophole and other things like that. But there's no way. Now he might use that power to work in some other language to the bill or something along those lines to maybe line his pockets or West Virginia's coffers or something along those lines, similar to Byrd, Senator Byrd. But I don't see him stopping. I don't see him stopping anything. He might. Nah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
So do you think it's going to pass? Because I mean, that usually Manchin with this Senate is kind of the stopgap on certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I considering his past discussion about like I said, the Manchin-Toomey bill and others, I generally say he would probably sign it, and like I said, he might negotiate with something about it, but I just don't see him really stopping anything. It's not in his best interest unless he's planning on coming back to West Virginia and maybe running for office again here in Farmington. I don't know. I honestly, but I don't see that happening actually. So
because he's not up till 24, and
he'll be in his mid 70s, I think, by then. But, I mean, that doesn't stop anybody else.
It's like middle age for a senator.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not stopping nobody. But I don't think he could win. I think by the time the redistricting happens and I just don't see a Democrat winning again unless the GOP, the West Virginia GOP puts up the absolute worst candidate, and they could very well do that. We don't know, but
No, they put up Jim Justice. I mean,
yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, I think that they'll have a little bit of common sense and probably run somebody like Morsi again or something along those lines
yeah.
but I mean, who else can they get? Mac Warner, maybe, maybe Riley Moore, so somebody who has worked their way up into the top echelon of West Virginia politics. That can probably beat Manchin just because the national or in the state Republican swing that we've had, the red wave. It's I think that they could probably defeat Manchin.
They could,
unless they dig up some dirt right before before the election, which could happen. There's a lot of things that probably could happen.
Yeah,
But,
and I'm not, especially when parties get that super majority status, you have to watch out because a lot of times they get a little full of themselves and they start pushing things through. I know that they've been antagonizing the teachers unions. Yes, we did have a big red wave in November. I'll be interested to see what happens in 22 when we don't have Donald Trump on the ballot. Whether they give back some, but I do anticipate that the GOP is going to gerrymander the maps and draw some very favorable lines for themselves to.
It's going to be interesting to see how that lines out. How that falls, especially here. Having a multi-member district here in my district, it's going to be really interesting because, we have two big population centers and then several smaller population centers that surround those areas, and it's going to be weird how they line that out. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but honestly, I don't see that. I think the red wave still hasn't really stopped moving forward quite yet, and I think especially with this legislation at the federal level, especially if it's very anti-Second Amendment or very, anti-freedom, anti-liberty. There's going to be a lot of upset Republicans that will go to the polls and vote for whoever Republican they can vote for, and the cycle will continue.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy because you don't have Donald Trump on the so you're not going to have those people that are so hyped up about keeping Donald Trump, but that first election after a president's elected, they generally lose seats in the House, and so you might see a much more agitated Republican base. I'd be interested to see what comes out of that. My theory about Democrats, though, is that they own stock in gun companies because they have to. They come out, they get elected, they get a little bit of power, and then they start talking about gun laws. And what it does is it drives everyone to the gun, the gun shop, gun shows. Can't find ammo now. They make gun companies so much money every time they open their mouths, and they have to own stock in it. They're just driving that money to themselves,
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we saw what happened in 93, 94, when, they passed the last assault weapons ban, and, it became, the Republicans started to control back, the House and Senate after that. And, it is, I think it's a cycle, it's definitely, they talk about banning guns and, then the entire time, the ATF is banning things, de facto, pretty much, with writing orders that the president signs off on, or actually encourages the ATF to write, whether it's pistol braces, the importation of ammunition from different countries like Russia and others. The importation of firearms from certain countries like Russia and China have been signed off with no legislation. It's just been banned by the ATF and other, import bans that, like I said, the president kind of nudges the ATF to do it. Sometimes, directly or indirectly. And, we lose our rights while everybody's still, rah-rahing over it, no legislation has been passed but
Yeah.
yet we're still, getting these like nickel and dime cuts,
Legislation, rulemaking. Yeah.
like, like bump stocks and pistol braces. Although, it's only talk, the pistol braces right now, but I've been affected personally by these de facto bans, because I'm a collector. We can't import semi-automatic firearms, past a certain age from Russia anymore, and China. And right now, countries like Serbia, former Yugoslavia, and Romania, they can't keep up with the demand to get AK platform rifles into the United States. They can't keep up with it. So they're hodgepodging things together in Serbia and former Eastern Bloc countries, and shipping them over here. And it's ironic now because back 10 years ago or more, the AK platform was cheap.
Yeah.
And the American AR platform, the AR-15 platform, was more expensive. Now it's flipped because there's not enough product coming from these countries, and AK rifles are ridiculous right now. You can't find one for under $800, which is ridiculous. While AR rifles are still relatively cheap, although they've crept up because of the new president and threats to the Second Amendment. So I don't know, honestly, going back to your theory about Democrats owning gun companies, but sure, yeah, I mean, why not? There's a lot of theories about the actual import of these rifles from the communist, the Chinese Communist Party, and the former Soviet Union, and all these Eastern Bloc countries. They're flooding, but people are buying them up, I should say. They're just, when you think about it, it's just an arms race in the United States with these guns, but look at the atmosphere, look at everything that's going on. We shouldn't be surprised about it. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, for the federal government. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I think about a lot, especially with all these import bans and stuff like that. It's frustrating.
So, and here's the thing that I don't get is that the kind of fealty to the GOP on this issue, and GOP presidents are just as likely to and sometimes in more cases more likely to pass or push for these restrictions. I mean, you remember Trump talking about red flag laws, and he actually did the bump stock ban.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Bush also did stuff with weapons, and it's, I don't know why there's fealty to the GOP when they're, is it just because they're elected and they're there, and the NRA gives them a ton of money, or
a lot of people, or at least a lot of libertarians that I know, are quick to point out the bump stock ban under Trump, and it's obviously that's what I was just talking about. They're de facto bans. They banned the buying and selling of them here in the United States, but it's that's happened under every presidency, and people say, well, he did more than Obama did, and and the reality is, no, not really, because Obama did the same thing with certain types of Russian surplus ammo that was in the States at the time that was dirt cheap. It's the ammo that the AK-74 shoots. Is 5.45 by 3.9, and they banned it because they said that because it could be fired out of a pistol, it is technically armor piercing because it was steel core ammunition, and because they make AK-74 pistols, you couldn't buy it anymore, and they couldn't import it. So, overnight, a $200 case of ammo was now $500, and now you can't find it. So it's one of those things that every president has been doing. It's not just been Democrat presidents or Republican presidents. It's something that they all do, and like I said, not much legislation passes. In fact, under George Bush, it's sunsetted. The assault weapons ban sunsetted. That's when all these the AR and other rifles could be bought again here in the States. But we still lost all those import rifles that I was just referring to, and certain rifles that I own, you can't find, won't be imported into the United States anymore. So right there, they have a finite amount. There's no more coming in unless somebody should lift that ban. And again, when Trump became president, there was talk, oh, he's going to pass the Hearing Act, or the Safe Hearing Act, the Suppressor Act, where they're going to remove tax stamps for suppressors or silencers, whatever you want to call them. And of course, he didn't do that. So there's all sorts of things he could have done. He could have lifted all these import bans too. They banned the import of 100-year-old bolt action rifles because they're from Russia, and he could have easily done that, with a stroke of a pen, but he didn't. So it's saying that he was a Second Amendment, pro Second Amendment president. Well, he didn't enact any major legislation, with the exception of the bump stock ban, which wasn't legislation. It was a ban from the ATF. So just more executive power, executive overreach from every president.
Sure.
And it affects Second Amendment supporters. That's for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me about the everyone I know is posting about the lack of ammo. What's led to the lack of ammo in the United States?
Well, I think the number of guns sold and the number of ammo bought has just been increasing every month. I mean, I don't think it's taken a break. Even in the Trump presidency, they were having highest gun background checks recorded from the NCIC, background check center. They were every month it was getting higher and higher.
Yeah.
People buying guns and ammo like crazy. And then last year, almost to the day, I think, or in a few days, you had so much uncertainty in the United States with the coronavirus, and I tell the story all the time. But me and my wife were laying in bed and we're watching the nightly news, and there's people stepping over each other for toilet paper, and I'm like, what's going on here? So I look on my phone, and I go to my go-to ammo websites, Centerfire and other websites that sells ammo online that you can have shipped to your house. And I bought what I needed, and that's how I handled it. And within 2 weeks, you couldn't find any of it. And cases of 5.56, which is what the AR platform shoots mainly, and we're like $1,000 for for 1,000 rounds. It was ridiculous. I mean, and it was just so much uncertainty. No one knew what was going on. No one knew, if everybody was going to die from the virus, or it was going to become, the apocalypse or whatever. It was so much uncertainty. And then Biden won the election. And, the talk of gun bans and the talk of everything going on.
Well, I think the election itself led to some of the buying, because there was a lot of heated rhetoric coming out of that election.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt. I think it's just been all this uncertainty, and then the election, and like you said, and then January 6th, the Capitol incident. I mean, people are I had people messaging me like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. I'm just out of the loop as you are, but ammo probably doubled that day too.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you serve with me on the executive board of the Libertarian Party of West Virginia. What got you into the Libertarian Party?
Well, it was around the same time I really started getting into firearms. It was 2007, 2008. I was following national level politics, and I started getting into the Ron Paul movement, and that's how it kind of started for me. I think it was 2012 or sometime, and in fact, I was. It was 2012, 2013. I was getting involved with the WVCDL as well, and meeting people who were libertarian, and that helped out a lot. I met I can't believe I can't remember his name. David Moran and John Buckley.
Yeah.
And that's who I was thinking of, was John Buckley. And he was running for Secretary of State around that time, and they wanted me to get involved in the party, and I started. I met them at Panera Bread, and I met Carl Swisher and others back then, and we met some other candidates, and they were talking to the idea of getting young people like me to run, and I was like, nah, I like the idea of the libertarian movement, and I'm not a politician, and I don't want to get involved in. Well, you don't got to do much, and and so I started getting in on that level, and then let's see, it was, I guess, 2016, 2017, and, everything going on, and, everything started becoming so political for me. And, by, I think 2018 is when John Buckley and others convinced me to run for House of Delegates. And it's kind of been a nonstop political campaign for me since then, really, with city council and another city council run, and the House of Delegates twice. And, just being involved with the party, as an officer, or I guess as an officer, as a at-large member. But it's been a great experience. I love it. I love politics. I like to consider myself like an armchair politico. I love to analyze everything politically, and I think I'm a fairly good moderate when it comes to most things. But I think it's just fun to talk about it. It's fun to talk politics, and I think meeting other people like you and other people I have met along the way in this, we all have the same ability, and that's to talk, without insulting each other. It's not like a Facebook post where we can actually talk about politics without, and we can all disagree and agree, and it's been a great experience because we all think the same or similarly. And it's just everything's so much easier, when you know people who are libertarian. And it's been great. I really enjoy it, and it's been a great experience.
I know the hardest part about me being the state chair during this whole pandemic stuff is I haven't been able to get out and go see people, and we've had a couple of get-togethers. Election night we had a nice little party down in Bridgeport. But I just didn't have a chance to get out and mingle with folks, and that's one of the hardest things, because politics really is such a social event. And you can live your life on Facebook and talk to people on Facebook, but social media has just become so crass, and people don't have that ability to talk with one another. They say things that you would never say to somebody. If you say some of the stuff you say on Facebook to people, somebody will violate the NAP on you. For my non-libertarian friends, NAP is the non-aggression principles. So, getting out and talking to people and relating to them, and telling them why libertarian solutions are better than what they've been dealing with the Republicans and Democrats is far superior than any other Facebook interaction that I've ever had. So, but you're going to be doing something new this year. You're going to take the plunge and run for state chair.
I think it's I think it's just the natural progression of things. I've got some different ideas, some new ideas that I'd like to toss around to the committee and anybody else present that'll listen to me, I guess. It's we're not going to go off the crazy train and do anything crazy. That's just I think personally, between you and I and anybody else who may be watching, when I first got into the Libertarian Party, it was very quiet, and I guess through social media and people like you and others that have joined our party and I've got to know through our party, we're very more outgoing, and we're willing to share our ideas on Facebook and other social media platforms and talk about it. And I think it's been organic in the fact that the Libertarian Party is growing naturally. But I think because of you and others, we've done a really great job, and I think we can continue that progress. Maybe using some different tactics, and I personally like the idea of reaching out to libertarians across the state of West Virginia and trying to get them to run wherever we can, and especially in non-contested races. Typically in our southern part of our state and other places, not just there, but and finding these people and reaching out to them directly, writing them letters, driving down there and kissing their butt, and then trying to get them to sell them on the idea of running for office. And I think we can do that. I think we have the right people to do that. People like you, people like me, and others that are in our committee, sure. And people I know across the state, not just on our committee, but people who are involved in our party. And getting them to run, even if it's a bare bones type, being on the ballot type of race, we can find the right person. I know we can. And then, another idea of, I think we've, tossed it around a little bit is, finding somebody who we can get uh, to win, and
Yeah.
finding a candidate that can win in a race that's winnable. I think we're getting close to that. It may be several elections off, but somebody out there can win as a libertarian race. We might need help, but I think we can find enough donors and raise the money we need through our committee and through libertarians across the state of West Virginia to win a race. I think that's important. I think
Yeah.
it really would solidify us as a state who maybe from other state libertarian parties, the West Virginia Libertarian Party is kind of in its infancy, really. I mean, although it has existed for some time, it really has not been growing like it has since pretty much you and others have taken their roles on the executive committee. Honestly, I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think together with the same people, just maybe a shifting jobs and duties around on the committee.
Yep.
I think we can continue the progress and make good things happen for the Libertarian Party of West Virginia. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think we have a fighting chance.
My job will be to keep the national focus, bringing in national notoriety and attention to our party,
Sure.
continuing that way, and then working in the state. My focus after this is going to be legislative. How do we reach legislators? How do we, when we don't have people elected, how do we reach those legislators and get our policy initiatives out there? So. But yeah, I'm excited. So you are once again taking the dive and running for Clarksburg City Council. Tell me about the race.
Well, this is my second time running. Like I said, it's been there it is. There you go. 4 political campaigns in a row here now since 2018. Like I said, 2 House of Delegates runs, and now my second city council run. And my first city council run, we had 15 candidates in the field, and I finished in the middle. I finished 7th out of 15th with 370 some votes. I think it was 371 or 2 votes, something along those lines. Which the lead vote getter only had 600 some votes, and I was only about 140 votes, if I remember correctly, or 120 votes, some around that line of being out of 4th place, which is there was 4 open spots. So I'm sorry, 3 open spots. There's 3 open spots. So this time around, there's 4 open spots. There is 11 candidates this time around. I'm trying to really promote myself on social media through some videos I've been putting together, and I've been trying to do a weekly video about different issues in our city that have been plaguing our city, and other opportunity issues, as well as trying to get Clarksburg out of a rut that we're in. And I think you living in Berkeley County, in Martinsburg, it's West Virginia is a different world when you cross over the Allegheny Mountains, and it gets even crazier the more south and west you go when it comes to politics and what's going on in these cities, especially the larger cities like Charleston, Huntington, Clarksburg, Parkersburg, and others. Where we've been seriously affected by COVID. We've been seriously affected by decades more drug epidemics that seem to rotate from heroin to fentanyl to methamphetamines. We have, we're suffering the same issues that Rust Belt cities suffer from. And I like to describe Clarksburg to people who don't know as we're kind of like Neptune or Uranus in the solar system of the Rust Belt. I mean, we are, you got to think Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. That's like Venus, Earth, Mars, Mercury. We're on the outer rim of the Rust Belt. I mean, we have been negatively affected for decades when it comes to opportunity, jobs, and other things. And Clarksburg was one time I think it was the 3rd or 4th largest city in West Virginia, and now we're down to 14th or 15th, I believe, maybe even lower. 16th or something along those lines. We had 35 to 40,000 people in Clarksburg at one point. We're down to about 14,000 people now.
Wow.
And it's, we closed all the factories, the unions left, and we're now suffering from the brain drain where young people graduate from high school and college and they move elsewhere to seek better opportunity. And we have an aging population. All about that. I mean, we have, West Virginia is shrinking. That's why we're losing a congressional seat. And it's not just a Clarksburg problem. It's West Virginia wide. However, like I said, once the Eastern Panhandle is a different world. They have the benefit of being close to major metropolitan areas with Washington and Baltimore and Northern Virginia, and they're kind of having residual effects from that. We don't have that. The nearest metropolitan area to me is 2 hours in the city of Pittsburgh. Columbus is about 3 hours. Charleston isn't really a major metropolitan area. I mean, I think it just recently hit for the first time under 100,000 people in their area. So, we're shrinking. The West, the problems that my city faces are not just our Clarksburg problems. It's statewide in some cases, and we have a lot to overcome. And when it comes to libertarian principles and bringing that into the city of Clarksburg, it is a nonpartisan race. So I can't really stump on being a libertarian, but I can stump on certain libertarian ideals like being fiscally conservative and being smart about our money, which we have a $24 million budget for the city of Clarksburg, and we were negatively affected by COVID. So we got to move in the right direction, keep moving in the right direction. I believe Clarksburg is moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, we're still sliding, and we just got to stop that sliding and go back up. It's just that.
So just to the people watching, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a line, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, and we'll discuss it on the air with the remaining 8 minutes or so that we have. But one of the big things that's within West Virginia politics that's come out this year is the governor's call to end the state income tax. There are issues with that. I mean, I'm when you tell me let's end a state tax, absolutely, let's do that. Let's do that, man. Taxation is theft, man. Get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. This
is not good. I don't think this one's good because they're just basically shifting. They're not cutting spending, which you would like to see with a tax cut. They never cut spending. They're just going to shift it to other. Either they're going to go into a deficit with. Or they're just going to, find something else like gas or soda or cigarettes. And, I know that the numbers are not going to add up when we get to the end of it. So they're going to have to raise things like property taxes and vehicle taxes and things like that. That's where they're going to end up having to make up the money here. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Harrison County here is already talking about budget cuts and hiring freezes for Harrison County, and that's mainly due to COVID loss and other things that is happened, and just the natural, like I said, the natural slide of our area, which continues to slide down as far as desirability of living in our area. People are leaving our area. It's just something we're dealing with, and when you move that tax, the barrel tax for beer here in West Virginia is only going to negatively affect these craft beer makers. It's not going to negatively, it's not going to make any, it's not going to hurt Bud, Miller, and Coors. It's, I recently read that Greenbrier Valley Brewing said that it was going to cost the barrel tax was going to cost them $90,000. These companies, I feel sorry for them because honestly, the worst thing about it is you're only taxing, people that really enjoy craft beer, and that those are people that are contributing to the income tax currently. And it's when you move that tax over to craft beer, it's just bad moves. It's bad moves all around. There would be better ways to do it. I'm sure they'll probably revisit it in a special session when they don't get what they want, and they'll go back and revisit it.
Yeah, when they do the redraw the lines for the legislature, they'll send.
Yeah, I personally, I don't use tobacco. Uh, I recently stopped drinking soda, uh, probably early February of this year, and I do that occasionally. I stopped drinking it, and but I was. It sucks because we know who that's going to affect.
Mhm.
When it comes to tobacco and beer and everything else, it's just a bad move. I mean, it's
Yeah. Again, if your cut tax is great, but you got to cut spending.
yeah,
You got to learn how to grow the economy organically and not, give, have the haves and have nots when it comes to businesses where, a local mom and pop business pays full tax while you give this major corporation, here in in our county, they'll give major corporations these massive tax breaks for a number of years just to relocate there. And as soon as those tax breaks go away, because usually they're sunsetted,
yeah.
if they can repass those tax breaks, they're out the door.
Mhm.
Um, we have just forgotten how to grow the economy organically by limiting the occupational licensing and all that stuff.
Inventory tax.
Yeah, inventory tax. Keep the mom and pops in business, and we'll begin to grow again. Um, you know, Income tax is great if we can do it. Man, yeah, let's get rid of the income tax, but uh, find a way to do it where we spend less money and not just transfer the tax from, you know, because generally like half the people in the state don't pay taxes. Um, they either get all back in the refund or there's an income threshold.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, you're taking all the tax that you're getting from people like me, uh, taking that away, and then you're putting it into sin taxes.
Mhm.
Sin taxes. Uh, um, you can tell that that's just not the way to do it.
Yeah, it's just a bad move. Maybe layer it down. Gradually reduce the income tax while finding cuts, and not moving these taxes. Uh, if if the increases for some of these items weren't noticeable, with smaller increments or something along those lines, maybe it would be okay for me. But as it is now, it just doesn't look good.
No, no,
Not a
it
good
doesn't.
move.
Absolutely. All right, man. So you got anything else you want to talk about?
No,
Well, I know you're a big World War II enthusiast.
I am a big military aviation enthusiast. World War II, uh, Great Patriotic War stuff. That's
Yeah.
really my niche when it comes to World War II history. Uh, yeah, that's been something I've always been into. Always been in the military aviation ever since I was a little child. And as your knowledge grows about certain things, you kind of steer one way into certain things. And so it became World War II military aviation, and World War II in general. And yeah, that's been kind of my stick. And that's it's having being a gun collector. And that
Yeah.
that became just natural. So now I've got all those guns, and it's
I won't tell you. I won't ask how many you've lost in the bottom of Lake Navigator.
well, I live just a couple hundred yards from the West Fork, so
Oh, there
West Fork
you
River, and that'll be easy to go put them in there if I
there
should
you go.
need. But
There you go. So one of the cool things was following your post when you were talking about your grandfather doing D-Day.
yeah, well, yeah,
That that
yeah,
was fascinating.
yeah. Well, he didn't participate in the actual invasion itself. He was 2 months behind in August of 44. But yeah, I did measure it by D-Day. Looking back at that, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was part of the reinforcements, or you should say, as the invasion force had already pushed inland, and not
Hmm.
very far, but there was still plenty of heavy fighting to be done.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, we're in fact getting some stuff together. We're going to take some of his stuff to the local Clarksburg History Museum, and we're going to have
Oh, that's
some of that
awesome.
stuff on some of that stuff displayed, his uniform and other things. So that should be pretty neat. And yeah, it's something that West Virginia knows a lot about, is military
Yeah.
history, and being there for all of it. I mean, that's West Virginians have sacrificed so much when it comes to fighting overseas, unfortunately, and it seems like when they're asked, West Virginians go, and I think it's partly because of socioeconomic issues in our state.
Yep.
For the last 100 years or more,
Exactly. It's either pick up a pickaxe or pick up a gun. It's like that was the choice.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So, hey, Will, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show tonight. Go to Will Hyman for WV or his Facebook page, which is Will or Hyman for Council on Facebook. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're welcome to come over to the After Dark show. It's a little less structured, but I'll send you the link to that to join us. And thank you again, and thank you to everyone who's watching us. Remember, we're on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Thank you to the People for Liberty for hosting us while I'm on my ban. And we'll talk to everyone next week. We'll be talking about women in politics. So we'll have a great panel discussion. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks, Will, and have a great night.
We'll see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. We air every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Thanks to People for Liberty for airing this episode on their Facebook page at People, 4 Liberty, Inc. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter with the handle of Papa Duke, Papaduke. Our Facebook page is The Political Deep Dive Podcast, all one word. Our Twitch handle is DT Valente, DTVALENTE. And our SoundCloud is The Political Deep Dive, all one word. We will see you next Sunday night at 8 p.m.